World champion Magnus Carlsen takes on Hikaru Nakamura in India. This is the first game between the two in this country. C4, E5, knight to C3 played. The knight comes out to F6. We are witnessing the English opening. The knight comes out to F3, attacking the E5 pawn. And black moves knight to C6, defending that pawn. So it's a 4 knights position. And Magnus goes D3. Just keeping everything flexible. G3 is kind of the main move. But now Hikaru goes for the open Sicilian here. Takes, knight takes on D5. And what will Magnus do? He loves to play Sveshnikov, and that's exactly what he does with white. He plays the reverse Sveshnikov, and Hikaru now makes an opening error with knight F4. Look at Magnus's expression there. He's like, Hikaru, are you sure that's the best move? Bishop F4, that's a mistake. Magnus gets up. Hikaru thinks about it a bit. Plays E takes F4, stops Magnus from moving, but Magnus anyway plays D4 and moves away. This is a great position for white right out of the opening. Bishop D6 played, but look at those central pawns on E4 and D4. They look so strong. Now Magnus plays H3. Remember, this is a move to control the center even better. How, you may ask? Because the bishops can come to B4 and G4, and Magnus with his H3 and A3 has stopped that. Very nice prophylactic play by the world champion. A6 by Hikaru, bishop moves to C4, and now king H8. Hikaru wants to play F5 and create his play, but Magnus goes E5, asks the bishop, where do you want to go? Bishop goes back, and now can the pawn even push further with D5? Yes, it does. White is pushing all of black's pieces out of the board. Knight A5, hitting the bishop on C4, and the bishop drops back to A2. Now B5 played, because the bishop can develop to B7. Magnus gets his king to safety with short castles. And now F6, trying to break the center. First Magnus goes B4, asks the question to the knight on A5. Yes, the knight comes to C4, and now he chops it off. Bishop C4, B takes C4, and E6 played, limiting the bishop on C8. But look, the bishop on E7 now is slightly more active, and the bishop goes to B7. So black looking like he can make a fight back, but Magnus says with queen D4, I'm attacking your C4 pawn as well as the F4 pawn. C6, excellent move by Hikaru. He's trying to open up the position for his bishops, even at the cost of sacrificing one pawn. Queen takes C4. What does Hikaru do now? He takes on D5. Magnus picks up the pawn on F4. But the position doesn't look as simple as it was before. Rook C8. Black is creating some play. But Magnus says, not anymore. My knight is going to come to D4. And it's going to blockade your D5 pawn. And your bishop on B7 will anyway remain passive. So white having close to decisive edge here. But first Hikaru attacks the queen. And now what do you do here? Queen E3. Magnus just drops his queen back. He's low on time actually. A5 played. Knight comes to D4. And notice Magnus has actually sacrificed a pawn. But Hikaru has no interest in it. He goes Rook E8. And now once again knight F5. Notice that if you play takes bishop B4, a move like queen B3 will drop a piece after rook B1 as well coming. So bishop B8 played by Hikaru. And now Magnus goes rook C1. He's like, my knights are very strong along with the pawn on E6. So rook C4 played. Knight to D4. Now when you have to make a move backwards, it means definitely something has gone wrong. Also Hikaru has 10 minutes on the clock. Magnus has 2 minutes 53 seconds. Is Magnus Carlsen going to mess up his advantage? AB4 played, takes the pawn back. Bishop A7 pinning the knight. This is getting a bit intense. Pawn pushes forward to B5. And now bishop to C5. White is a pawn up, but black is getting his counterplay. Queen D3. And now queen to B6. This allows Magnus to actually win another pawn, it seems. He takes on C4. Hikaru is fine with it. D takes C4. Queen takes C4. He's 2 pawns up, but now he takes on F3. Gives up one of his bishops to get the pawn on E6. Is this now drawish? Because look, the bishop and queen battery are attacking the F2 pawn, so the rook cannot move. And Magnus only has 40 seconds. He goes G3. That's Actually, he shakes his head. He says there's something wrong in the position, but he first improves his king, goes to g2, rook to b8, attacking the b5 pawn. How does Magnus continue? He goes rook to c1. The bishop is hanging. If you take on f2, there's queen c8 check, so the bishop had to move back. This brings the knight to d4 and h5. Hikaru is trying to create some play. Magnus goes knight e6. And once again, you can't take on b5 because after exchanges, the bishop on f8 would hang. So he goes bishop a3, attacking the rook. Rook comes up to c3. I love how Magnus plays even with just 41 seconds on the clock. Bishop b4. He takes, queen takes e6. And now rook to c5. You will notice that Magnus is a pawn up. But in major piece endgames, this could lead to sometimes a draw. The main problem for black also is that his king is weak now. The h5 pawn is weak. The b8 rook is hanging. Hikaru is shaking his head. He's also down to 50 seconds. He goes rook to d8. And now can we push our pawn already? No, first safety, first approach. Queen to f3, g6, and now he pushes his pawn to b6. Rook d7, you can't push your pawn just as yet to b7 because black is controlling that square, but rook c8 check first. King comes up and the queen moves into c6. Notice how Magnus has controlled the long diagonal of his king with the queen, and now he might threaten rook c7. So king h6 played, and it's time to play h4. Very cool and calm move. Just asking black, what is it that you want to do in this position? You can see Hikaru hardly has moves. He's down to 10 seconds. 7, 6. No, remember, this is not increment. He's gone to 14 now. Rook c7. This is a delay clock. So queen d5 check. Queen takes d5. Rook takes d5. Pawn to b7. Is it queening? No, he stopped it. f4. And now the king will simply come over to the queen side and shepherd the pawn to becoming a queen. It seems like Hikaru does not have any play here and he resigns. What a game by Magnus Carlsen. The crowd erupts in applause.